Hey guys, and welcome back to
Megajordinary.
And this is our last video for
Spooky season.
We have had so much fun filming all these videos, editing them and getting them out to you guys, and we're so grateful for all your feedback and all the love that we've received on this spooky series.
And we might have something similar to this spooky season series coming up for the festive season. So keep those Christmas eyes peeled.
And from next week, our normal videos will be resuming.
We have a really good case coming the first week of November, so keep the eyes peeled for that one.
So, for this video, we're going to be discussing the Kennedy family curse. And a little disclaimer before we get into this, all of the information that we are going to be discussing in this video, we have obtained from multiple sources on the internet. This video is merely just for entertainment and educational purposes.
The Kennedy family have been through their share of tragedies, such as the obvious assassination of JFK, along with tragic accidents and many premature deaths, etc., throughout the family's generations.
So, a bit of background. The Kennedy family are an Irish-American political family. Patrick Joseph Kennedy was born in Boston in 1858 to Irish Catholic parents. Bridget and Patrick Kennedy, who were both originally from New Ross in County Wexford, Ireland, but they had emigrated to the States in 1849. It was actually really common for Irish citizens to emigrate to America in the 1800s due to the famine, dire economic conditions, religious conflicts, etc. The population of Ireland actually decreased drastically throughout the 19th century. The 1841 census actually showed an Irish population of 8.2 million, and by 1891 the census showed a population of only 4.7 million. It's believed that around 4.5 million Irish immigrated to America between the mid-1800s to the early 1900s.
Patrick Joseph, PJ we'll call him, married Mary Augusta Hickey. She was the daughter of Irish immigrants from County Cork. They married on the 23rd of November 1887 and went on to have 4 children together. Their names were Joseph Patrick, Francis Benedict, Mary Loretta and Margaret Louise. Unfortunately, Mary Augusta died on the 6th of May 1923 from cancer.
So PJ had a very prestigious career in politics. He was actually a Massachusetts state senator at one point, but by the time of his passing in May 1929, aged 71, he also had stocks in the Columbia Trust Company Bank, and this is where the Kennedys' legacy in American politics began. So Joseph Patrick Kennedy, the eldest child of PJ and Mary, married a woman named Rose Fitzgerald on the 7th of October 1914, and they went on to have 9 children together.
Their names were Joe Kennedy, birth name Joseph Patrick Kennedy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, known as JFK, Rosemary Kennedy, Kathleen Agnes Kennedy, Eunice Mary Kennedy, Patricia Helen Kennedy, Robert Francis Kennedy, known as Bobby Kennedy, Jean Ann Kennedy, and last but not least, Edward Moore Kennedy. So, let's start the timeline of tragic events that happened to the Kennedys that has led people to believe that the family must be cursed.
Rosemary Kennedy suffered loss of oxygen to the brain during her birth, and this was because a nurse apparently forced Rose Kennedy, Rosemary's mother, to keep her legs closed during her labour, which resulted in Rosemary's head being stuck in the birth canal for over 2 hours. And as Rosemary grew, her parents noticed that she wasn't hitting her developmental milestones, and it is believed that Rosemary was actually intellectually disabled. Now, growing up, Rosemary had many different tutors to aid her learning and to aid her developmental progression. And when Rosemary turned 11, she started attending a boarding school in Pennsylvania for the intellectually disabled. Now, as we all know, mental health and other disabilities were seen as something to be ashamed of back in the day, which is sickening to think of now because we have come a long way in our society and in research, and we understand mental health and disabilities a lot more now. But back in the day, it was totally, you just didn't speak about it, and it was like a shame on the family, which is so wrong. And so as Rosemary grew, her condition began to decline. Apparently, she was said to have become increasingly violent at the drop of a hat, and she was suffering from convulsions. And so the Kennedy family decided that they would send Rosemary for a lobotomy. And this was in November 1941, when Rosemary was just 23. The lobotomy ended tragically, and after the procedure, Rosemary became incontinent and she couldn't walk or speak properly. And it's said that her mental capacity diminished to that of a 2-year-old. After the lobotomy, she was institutionalized for the rest of her life. That's just so sad.
The amount of plane crashes that have occurred in this family is really intense. In 1944, Joseph P. Kennedy, the eldest Kennedy son, who was volunteering to fly a plane in World War II, died in a plane crash over the English Channel. Apparently 2 explosions went off in flight. Joe was only 29 when he died. Just 4 years later, Kathleen Kennedy, who had married William Cavendish, Marquess of Harrington, died in a plane crash along with 3 other people during a storm in France. Kathleen was just 28 at the time. Edward Kennedy, the youngest child of 9, was flying a campaign flight from Washington to Westfield, USA, when suddenly the plane lost altitude and crashed into an orchard. Edward had a really lucky escape with only a broken back and a few broken ribs. This crash happened in 1964.
And then in 1999, John F. Kennedy Jr., the son of JFK and Jackie O, and his wife Carolyn, along with her sister Lauren, died in another plane crash over the Atlantic Ocean. JFK Jr. was actually flying the plane, and it was concluded that the crash occurred because John F. Kennedy Jr. didn't have enough piloting experience, even though it's believed that he actually had underwent 300 hours of lessons before this flight. I'm not really sure what the required amount of lessons is required before somebody can fly a plane, so I'm not sure on that one. But they said that he must have become disoriented and lost control. Now, let's discuss the most famous example of the Kennedy family curse, and that is the assassination of JFK. So JFK was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963, whilst on a presidential visit in Dallas, Texas. And JFK was just 46 years old at the time of his assassination. I feel like we need to do a separate video on JFK and his assassination, because there's lots of conspiracy theories behind it, and yeah, it's just, there's a lot to unpack with that one. So if you want us to do a separate video on this, let us know down in the comments and we will get onto that.
And 5 years after JFK's assassination, at the age of 42 on the 5th of June 1968, Robert Kennedy was assassinated shortly after addressing his supporters in the hotel ballroom of the Ambassador Hotel in LA after winning his election in the California Democratic presidential primary election.
And 1 year on from this, in 1969, Edward Kennedy, the youngest Kennedy who had that near miss in the plane accident, was driving his vehicle on Chappaquiddick Island in Massachusetts after attending a party. And in the vehicle he had his PA, Mary Jo Kopechne. I think that's how you pronounce her surname, so forgive me if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. Mary was in the passenger seat. Edward was clearly intoxicated and he lost control of the car. And on losing control of the car, he crashed into a bridge and subsequently drove the car into the water below. Mary Jo was trapped inside the vehicle, but somehow Edward managed to escape. And he just went back to his hotel room, leaving Mary Jo in the vehicle that was submerged deep underwater. And Edward didn't alert authorities until the next morning, 10 hours after the incident occurred. Mary Jo tragically lost her life in that incident, and all Edward got was a 2-month suspended sentence, and that was it. Terrible. And in 1973, Edward's 12-year-old son, who was also named Edward Kennedy, these names, like, I literally...
Yeah, it's so confusing. There's so many
It's so
of them with the same
confusing.
name.
Yeah. So we understand if you're feeling a little bit lost, because sometimes we are too. But yeah, Edward Kennedy had to have his right leg amputated after a cancerous growth was discovered. And in the same year, Robert Kennedy, who was assassinated, well, his son, Joseph Patrick II, again with the names, his brother David, David's girlfriend Pam Kelly, her sister, him and 3 of their other friends were on the way home from a beach trip in Cape Cod when Joseph P., who was driving, crashed the vehicle, leaving Pam Kelly paralysed forever. And Pam actually passed away just last year in 2020, aged 65. And David Kennedy, who was also in the vehicle, died from an overdose in a hotel room in Florida in 1984, and he was just 28 years old at the time. And David's other brother, Michael Kennedy, was embroiled in lots of controversies. It was reported that he was having a long-time affair with his children's teenage babysitter. And in the midst of all this controversy, while the controversy was ongoing and it was being reported worldwide over all the newspapers, etc., he decided to take a trip to Aspen in Colorado to ski and kind of get away from everything. And whilst he was there, Michael died in a ski accident on New Year's Eve in 1997, and he was just 39 years old at the time.
So, Jean Kennedy, JFK's sister, well, her son, William Kennedy Smith, was accused of the R word of a woman. We can't say the R word because of YouTube, that he had met in Palm Beach in Florida after a night out in 1991. William's trial was also broadcast on TV. He then was eventually acquitted of all charges. This is not the only time a violent crime was connected to the Kennedy family name. In 2002, Michael Skakel, who was Ethel Kennedy's nephew, was convicted of bludgeoning Martha Moxley to death in 1975. Michael and Martha were neighbours and both 15 at the time. Michael was sentenced to 20 years in prison for this crime, but freed on bail for 3 years in 2013, pending a new trial. Martha Moxley was murdered the day before Halloween, and on the exact same date, on October 30th, 2020, 45 years later, all charges against Michael were dismissed. There's a lot to unpack with that case as well, so yeah, look into it.
So on the 1st of August 2019, Saoirse Roisin Kennedy Hill, Robert F. Kennedy's granddaughter, was found dead at the Kennedy family compound in Cape Cod after an accidental overdose, and she was just aged 22. A couple of months after Saoirse's death, in April 2020, Maeve Kennedy McKeown, another granddaughter of Robert Kennedy and Saoirse's first cousin, vanished along with her 8-year-old son, Gideon, after going on a canoe trip in Chesapeake Bay. A big search and rescue operation went ahead in search of Maeve and Gideon, and 4 days later, Maeve's body was recovered from the bay. And just 2 days after Maeve's body was discovered, her son Gideon's body was also recovered. Their cause of death was accidental drowning. They actually believe that Gideon had a toy and it fell into the water, and Maeve bent over to try and retrieve it, and it capsized the canoe and they both unfortunately drowned.
So, what a lot of tragedy for one family and their lineage. And now you can understand why many people believe that there is a curse on this family. So, let's jump right in and talk about some theories.
Legend has it that JFK's great-grandfather, Thomas Fitzgerald, discovered a chest filled with gold and other treasure in a deserted village of Owrid in Connemara, Galway back in 1838. Owrid actually means golden village in Irish, by the way. So once he discovered these treasures, Thomas Fitzgerald was then said to have used these riches to move to Boston and thus create the Kennedy Empire. He put his money into politics, etc., and it's actually believed that the riches were cursed, and the Kennedy family were forever cursed for being greedy. So yeah, who knows?
There is also a theory that Joseph Kennedy, who was JFK's father, was on a ship during the war with Jewish rabbis, and apparently Joseph had complained about them praying on the Pope because it was too loud for him, and thus the rabbis cursed him. There was also rumours that he was supplying the Germans with weapons during the war, and this could be another reason why he could have been cursed.
And I actually heard that a member of the Kennedy family stumbled upon a fairy mound in Ireland way back when and intentionally destroyed it, and so the fairies cursed the family forevermore. And in Irish folklore, fairy mounds are very sacred, so maybe this is what happened to the Kennedys, or maybe this is just a tale like Chinese whispers that got edited throughout time and they either ended up with the treasure from Elrid, or yeah, who knows. But if you've heard any of these theories, or you have any other theories that you heard that we didn't discuss, please let us know down in the comments. And most importantly, do you believe that the Kennedy family are in fact cursed?
So we have come to the end of this video, and unfortunately it is our last video of the spooky season series 2021, but like we said, there will be lots more content coming your way.
We are going to be back to posting our regular content next week, so as Jordan said at the start of the video, we have a really crazy true crime case coming up, so keep your eyes peeled.
Last but not least, before we sign off, please give this video a big thumbs up, hit that notification bell to be notified for all future Megajordinary videos. Please hit that subscribe button and share it with family, friends and anyone that you want to share it with. So, over and out, and
Happy Halloween!